Sedan Cheba Nede Shekho Dunye Nanga Sende Bende Cheze Lama Yebe Zonga Dalo Debe Sena Denba Yeje Geja Shuzo Sheje Chungun Jave Lodre Gesa Nabe Genjo Leshe Tabe Beje Lame Zebe Tongde Tembe Dende Lacha Yewo Cheye Nazo Medo Chishin Dobe Nangsen Deja Wesha Yedu Chudin Gyazo Sena Xingzhuo Chela Cheba Kanxi Tongmen Dine Saba Lunga Yisun Migi Jiji Kebaran Domba Sunjin Yingnian Jeban Dabu Soso Yingmen Dede Mangdun Dobla Sheye Bangben Denjo Denye Gombo Cheje Labjin Zeba Daja Samban Tabe Yirang Cheje Laman Damba Cheno Shugyu Kala Chenje Jinji Cheda Samben Deje Singpa Sabje Cheje Chaba Abdo Namda Vese Yingle Shenwa Songzhu Gola Chagdo Tame Nangu Sugu Rabdan Sidi Bado Mino Demba Tazo Chini Sabe Gewa Tendan Drowa Gwenla Kamben Kebara Chizi Loshan Chagba Tembe Yingbo Rendo Seje Mingme Zebe Deje Chime Kembe Wangbo Jambe Devo Mali Jomze Sanwe Kanjin Kebe Zojin Zongka Pa Losan Tabe Shabla Su Mime Zebe Dejin Chenre Se Chime Kem Wangbo Jambe Yang Devo Mali Jom Sanwe Da Kanjin Kebe Zojin Zongka Pa Losan Tabe Shabla Mime Zebe Dejin Jenre Se Chime Kembe Wangbo Jambe Devo Mali Jomze Sanwe Kanjin Kebe Zojin Zongka Ba Sowan De Banden Sawe Lama Rembo Daso Chiwuru Benden Denshu Kadin Chenbu Gone Cheso Gusun Toji Ngudu Zedo Banden Sawe Lama Rembo Daso Ningara Benden Denshu Kadin Chenbu Gone Chodan Tumu Ngudu Zendo Banden Sawe Lama Rembo Daso Ningara Benden Denshu La Kadin Chanju Ningbu Ba Denba Jo Masan Jime Shera Paru Je Maje Manga Namge Ngowo Sozo Rari Yeshin Tezon Yewe Yumla Tenzin Dorjee Gaden Gaden Bodhisattva Gaden Gaden so han de ta ga de para sam ga bo de so han gere dong da ja jo xie wa da me de ba jo jo ne da xie I just want to remind every one of ourselves to take a moment and cultivate the highest form of motivation. We call it Bodhisattva motivation, or the altruistic motivation, seeking complete enlightenment or Buddhahood for the sake of all other sentient beings. With that kind of at least contrite bodhicitta, altruistic motivation, we should all participate in this Bodhisattva's discourse on the perfection of wisdom gone beyond prajna paramita. So where we will pick up from this guide on Bodhisattva's way of life called Bodhisattva Char Avatar, we will be talking about emptiness of inherent existence by using certain examples, in particular Maya or illusion, how everything is like a Maya or illusion.
Nipane ze mombe so gangpa chui tens cho de gansa de denpa zebe momba mari be denpa kangsi sing drota be suso yungo bo deda gyuma kenji chube tana so le ni chebara chi yudi di nigawa rangshin ji chuba tara naya rangshin ji chuba majaba nyedu nebe se nangzu de ne zu me dunbe zumba imbi sherwa deda ki tenzik di hindu shushin jume tens Yuma kenje sa tana so chuba kanyin bada yujin shen nam sobe top ji ne kang chuba su so ji ngobo deda la ni rangshi chuba chungse jame de yuna jewe tse hen shing ni rangshi je se rangshi ji wungwe je rangshi ji wungwe je chuba chungse karsa wungwe je rangshi ji wungwe la gaba tsa rangshi ji shen tu drogwe na ngobu chu tena ni yujien tenri zangli shunga samado kiawa nayang kangne wongpara majir shing gaba nayang kandu droang da dakpar chi shi dang zhuong da rangshi zhiba kanyang tseme mikba miksu me do deda gani tenri la se deme shaba ten do se nyugu da jushi je tenri tabu jubu kangshi sabon da marikbe tenri tabu ju kanda nyawa kiawa tonga ju la ju deda meba da masana kiawa meba ba ye ten shungi shwe deda ni ju jin lobo we sardu chu su yoba am shubu yinji ju jin la tumi tu kiawa ni nange pemu shenu yana taba zamji da shi shu kangshi rang do shi ki dobe dabe di jen kanda ga nyawa yi shi jarde tenju we se tumu mayi bi shi zu tumu mayi bi shi zu lo se o tere da karsa gyuma tabu se gyuma ken sa de tiku gyuma ken sa chu kewa di peke tana sa kar chu we na ti zumba ri kora gyujien tenre den zu nang shang shi ma ju kora yu duru ko dire nang ayo ma ri se se di na shi chue tam shi peke denzi yu dro ta den dro nang ra ma tu chue deba driba shi ayo ma ri se deba driba yin kwa yin gyujien dire ra ma li ba deba driba yin kora rangshi yu driba deba driba yin ya me na yu yu ka me na me chi ma tu shi paro samsa yu wa samsa me ba dire ge o di rikpa di ninga di yung to yu ma ri ba kare se na kwa rangshi yu driba yin zang kwa tu tu yu ma ri se ya gyujien shi ayo ma ri ba ta gyujien tenre li tengi ni shungu si di zang yu me ne ka su gyujien sa na yin ke yung go ri se ko me me ne ka gyujien ma sa tu tu yu ma ri se se ta de tak den ra ma yi pa zu she shu go se ta rangshi yu driba yin tenre shi ya me yin zang yu na tak di yu ba ya na me chi o tenre tak go ri se ta rikwe lam ni ro na tenre sha go da
So Geshe read from the extensive commentary and started to explain. He did not identify which stanza he was explaining, but I think we are on page 177 of this English translation by Stephen Batchelors of the guide, and it relates to stanza 143. So there are a number of stanzas that are interrelated, so I think somewhere there. So here now we are looking at what we call nature, ultimate nature of phenomena, using dependent arising as a reasoning, right? So we use dependent arising, pratit samutpat, to analyze and to understand ultimate nature of phenomena, ultimate reality. So this is the second big reason, or is this the biggest reason we normally use to understand emptiness of true existence or intrinsic existence. And so as Geshe explained, that if we look at an example first, the example is that of a magical creation, illusion or maya. Which magician might use pebbles or tricks and then mantras to be able to create horses and elephants. And those who are at the magic show, they see as if there are real horses and elephants. What appears to their visual perception are the horses and elephants, and what they really believe in is like this really look like, or these are real horses and elephants. But that is just a deceptive truth, isn't it? A magician has uses tricks and pebbles and mantras. Through the assemblage of these causes and conditions, he or she has created this just magic in front of you, and which looks very real, and the spectators believe these are real horses and elephants. But in reality, there are no real horses and elephants. So there is appearance of real horses and elephants if you are at the magic show, but in reality, there are no horses and elephants. So it's deceptive. Are you with me? In the same way, for us ordinary people and sentient beings, things appear to us as truly existent. Yeah? But do they exist truly or not? If we ask that question, they don't. Right? So we have the appearance of true existence, but in reality, nothing exists truly. So there is deceptive reality right there. Are you with me? So as Geshe said, hypothetically speaking, if something were to exist truly or intrinsically, it would either have to exist right forever as truly existent, there should not be any change, or if something doesn't exist right at all, then it shouldn't exist at all. But that's not the case how we observe and experience things or phenomena, right? When causes and conditions come together, then things happen. When the causes and conditions are no more there, then things don't happen. So we do this randomness or this occasionality, these periodic things, right, we call that we experience. But if we were to look for imputed phenomena, we cannot find it. So there is, as we say, kind of a correlation between the example given, magic show, and how things appear to us and how things they actually exist. At the magic show, you see horses and elephants, you have appearance, and you believe they are true, but in reality they are not. And in the same way, like things appear to us as truly existent, and we believe that's how they exist, but in reality they are empty of true existence.
What is dangerous? You get dangerous, and the top doesn't dangerous. Just a terror in Shakuta. You get the division, you get the Shadi, Gadu number to the Mashiga Shagora. The top was of dangerous, the 10 years, with the 10 years, she is just a dangerous. Then days 야 주제는 줄때는 차단시다 또배 다히다고 또배 다바zen 해봐 차단 땡제세 진짜 다 차라르니
No. When it comes to explaining and understanding what we call the dependent arising or pratit samutpat, tendal in Tibetan, so it's often translated as dependent arising, but it could also be dependently related, right, literally speaking. So there are two ways of understanding it. One is more at the course level, sort of easy to understand way. The other is more at a subtle level. And so the easy to understand concept of dependent arising is related to cause and effect relationship, isn't it? If things require causes to be produced, so those things are certainly dependent on their causes. If the causes are no more there, those effects could not exist at all. So they are not truly existent on their own. They are dependent on something else, isn't it? So that kind of dependent arising concept, understanding, is common to all the four Buddhist schools of thought. Vaibhashikas, which we call reductionists, realists, and Shantidevas, followers of the sutras, and Chitta-Martins, mind-only school of thought, and Madhyamikans, or the middle way philosophers. Now the subtle concept or understanding dependent arising, it is related to what we call labeling or imputation, right? Imputation by thought, terms and concepts. And this is the subtle understanding dependent arising, how everything is merely imputed onto their basis of imputation, right? So things are dependent upon their basis of imputation, whatever that is, and things are imputed onto that. So there is that relationship, dependency between basis of imputation and what is imputed onto them. So that subtle dependent arising understanding is exclusive to the highest Buddhist schools of thought we call Prasangika Madhyamikans or Omatengyurwa in Tibetan.
What did it Tanda Dega Karza Do Devada Shirama Tizo, Semzama Tizo telling or Reva Karza. Dobetazum Shirang Tinjua Niza killing Izua. She said, Dobetazum said, Killer Rang Tinjua Killer on the Penangate of Shadua. She said, Ranju Dogina, and she don't Dobetazum Chasidua. She don't Dobetazum. 고동집에 런집이 상로동하다 텐조스티야 더버다서야지 또봐 지고 봤다서마도 유익을 매가 주고서 세서 런집하게 유익은 유 또배 봐다 인소이리고 저기서 더버다서 많이 나와라 근데 샘도 메제 내가 또배다서다 인내랑 그 생이 좋아니 그냥 히드를 내고 세 또배다서서 고도로는 또버다서랑 진이 맞고 그러지 심자바다 오마 런주니가 다가 차라고 어떻게 쇼그레스 어디서 심자바가 또버다서 고아도 차상 태비어 말이지 런주바 또버다서 고아도 차상 태비 인상 다 또버다서 있는 거라 유익은 매고도 티송다 요 말이지 시도 또버다서 많이 차리지 라고라 어디 라다도 그런 Dobetazum be Kodon of the Nima Shala or his word.
No, so. King did some again. Shirama about the daughter, but somebody talk about 1,000 Karsat, then you got Ramsin.
The much they can Dobetazum is Ramsi Joy.
No. So as Krishna explained, if we look within the Buddhist schools of thought or tenets called Siddhant, Dukta in Tibetan, Vaibhashikas, reductionists, realists, and Shantidevas, followers of the sutras, and Chitta-Martins, mind-only school, so they do not see contradiction between something that's imputed and something that exists truly. Okay? They do not see contradiction between things. They said, you know what? Things are imputed by thought, but they also exist truly. So they don't see a contradiction in there. Whereas Prasangika Madhyamikans, the highest Buddhist school of thought, if something is merely imputed by terms and concept, then that thing could not exist truly or intrinsically, because that contradicts, isn't it? Right? If something is dependent on, right, concept and terms, then that thing does not exist in and of itself, intrinsically. So it's a contradictory to say that things are merely imputed and then things are also truly existent or intrinsically existent. Right? But lower schools, they don't see a contradiction there. Whereas Sevatantrika Madhyamikan schools, that sub-school of the middle way school, Umar Rangyuba in Tibetan, has a very kind of interesting, unique positions of their own. They would say that no phenomenon is merely imputed by terms and concept. If something exists, it necessarily follows that it is not merely imputed by terms and concepts. Okay? And so as Geshe explained, that even at the higher school, Buddhist school of thought, Chidamartins, Mind's-only school of thought, Sevatantrika Madhyamikans, that sub-school, and the Prasangika Madhyamikans, Chidamartins have really not fully understood the meaning of mere labeling or imputation. Okay? That's what it is. But Sevatantrika Madhyamikans have intellectually understood the meaning of mere labeling or imputation by terms of concept, but they couldn't accept it. They think that if that's thing, then things can't exist at all. So they have come to this kind of 50-50 position. Things are imputed by terms and concept, 50% kind of thing, mathematically speaking, if you can say that. Of course, no text says 50-50, okay, but that's what it is. But 50% it exists from its own side. So it's a combo position, right? Combination. Something exists from its own side, and something is imputed onto that. Through this combination of existing from your own side and being imputed onto that, that's how things exist. That's what the Sevatantrika Madhyamikans say, isn't it? Okay. And so therefore, they would say that if something exists, it's necessary that it's not merely imputed by terms and concepts, that has a logical profession. Now the Prasangika say, no, if something is merely imputed by terms and concept, the Tibetan word is tokpe, concept, taksam is merely, right? The word merely makes a lot of importance. There's a whole debate about that, right? The merely imputed by terms and concept, then it could not exist truly from its own side. It could not exist intrinsically in and of itself. So these are the different perspectives, Buddhist perspectives, when it comes to ultimate reality of things.
What this is that concept, what in the other, Sina, can do the middle that in my. She's a drama, she's a shower, she Oma to the Drota Komaki, Dalia, Quadria, Pication, Pendo use. Oma Metawa show the Komakom and Babdins, there is soon you be there. What the Konzo, you must some not don't that concept. Hello, Sidan Lord, the chair to Sandu, Lava Jadans, direct subjoe Maris. Says so Java Yang Towers and Sanjay Song, then the Java shared. So some do the my loud is a in the Tombo Rabati Akona. And then I had a chart on the other Babdik the shower with the good Jones Gayomaris. Tomoko on the Rasa, Madis, the Moko Chazat and Cocoa Mira Yangayara. The Omo was Komokom and Babdik in the Shiv there, it is a so that.
So as I kind of highlighted pretty much, not much explained here, some really substantive differences among the Buddhist schools of thought when it comes to reality, especially ultimate reality. One must not think that, oh my God, these lower Buddhist schools of thought have gone completely wrong, right? So you don't want to be too critical about them and criticize them, right? As abandon them. Okay, I want Prasangika Madhyamika, these are no good kind of thing. But that would be wrong. We have to appreciate and respect their viewpoint. Why? Because every one of them try to understand Buddha's explanation, ultimate reality, and they use their own reasoning, right? They use their own sort of analysis, so they have come to some kind of a conclusion on their own. This is what we think. So from higher schools of thought, the conclusions lower schools of thought have drawn are, relatively speaking, more gross level decisions, isn't it? Because it's easy to go from the gross to the subtle, isn't it? I mean, that is a process. We go from dealing with easy to understand thing, and then we slowly go more deeper and try to understand the subtleties or the subtle realities. So this is why it's often said, in the discourses on the schools of thought, that these Buddhist schools of thought, the lower, are more like the rungs in the ladder to understand higher ups, or the staircases, right, leading to what is explained in the lower Buddhist schools of thought, facilitate deeper understanding of the higher levels of thought. So as a matter of fact, they are very helpful, isn't it? It's not like, oh my God, they're completely gone wrong, and then you just kind of criticize like them anything. That's not the point. We're missing the point. Right? And so we have to appreciate that. As Geshe said, that if we right from the beginning jump to the most subtlest one, we won't be able to understand it. So we have to take it slow, so to speak. Understand what we can, then go a little bit deeper, then understand that, then a little bit go deeper, and then we go to the deepest thought, right? So it makes sense. So all these Buddhist schools of thought are the like staircases, like leading to the Prasangika's understanding of ultimate reality.
this was 야알이 마시는 소소 상시 송혀 송들 소소 비게 상호 좀 땅에 인수 고조를 캐내 저거리시 더 별에는 야 가리게자는 샤이 가리야거는 게자샤디 어디 캐가가 디캐는 거시 그래서 별이야 다들 저 희설여 그가 tenyo 인생이면서 지라마도 되면서 인생이지야 요마로 그래서 이제 프로바도 잡아지 장세도 자가도 소소 삼모다니 다 내가서 인지해서 뭐지 소소 삼모는 코마고나 인코 켈레고 버리지 어디서다.
So there's a saying that in ancient India, when the Buddhists study all these schools of thought, Indian scholars and masters, they really only tried to do the analysis and come to a conclusion that really fits their level of understanding at the time. They don't like to jump over the right. They said, okay, this is what it is through my conclusion, isn't it? So they go with their capacity level of understanding. But Tibetans, regardless you understood that below or not, everybody claims to be the Prasangika Madhyamikans. Right? You just jump right at the top. That's why if you ask all the 4 traditions of Tibetan Buddhism, right, Nyingma, Sakya, Kagyu, Gelug, everybody is Prasangika Madhyamikans. Nobody says we are Vaibhashikas or Southern Tigers, right? Everybody claims to be that. So Tibetans somehow went with what is like famous, going with the fame, name and the fame kind of thing. Everybody's Prasangika, nobody says I'm Vaibhashikas, right? Indians will go along that. Maybe at this point I'm Vaibhashikas. Maybe then I'm Southern Tigers, I improve. Then I'm Chidamani, right? They're being honest, so to speak, to themselves, whereas Tibetans kind of go with the reputation.
What is the judgment song on the day to work? Lamas and I'm song shoes on this and here, logic here. Judgment song on the day to work. Jagato be Hitayamores. So some do done Lagos. Provided by guys is going to get us out of the judo. What judgment song on the day do.
So Geshe says that in some of the works of Lama Tsongkhapa, Rinpoche was watching over my head here. So he said that, right? There may be other lamas who might have said it too. He said, what? Ancient India, they really go with their level of progress, capacity, understanding, and that's, they will claim I'm Vaibhashikas, I'm Santatkas. But the Tibetans have just kind of gone with the reputation, name, and the fame, and then everybody claims to be Prasangika Madhyamikans,
我这从中也把那些这些，现在我就把上面这当为呢，那大小伙的，大马上呢，出来然后就在，天主刚刚天主引生嘛，天主们就说是帮助引生的，这这么多，现在我这常备就是这样是吧？就是上面那块子的，上面马上写，牙都看这是我这里讲天引生嘛的。
So what Lama Tsongkhapa said, if you really kind of do the observation, right, he has a good point there, isn't it? Why in Tibet everybody claims to be Prasangika Madhyamikans, where there is no diversity, right? I'm sure Tibet is a big society, right? There will be people who have different levels of thinking, philosophy, right? And the diversity is all not there. Everybody claims to be Prasangika Madhyamikans now, right? So what Lama Tsongkhapa said, it really stands true when you only go with name and the fame and the coolness thing. This is the word coolness is the right word to say. Then you end up claiming to be Prasangika Madhyamikans. It's a trendy thing, isn't it? Yeah.
我这是我家现在他，就在马西那个西藏马的他，别马脚啊这些，你把这多点些个，什么吧，西巴的他，有人西巴他。我妈是我说的，在农村现在上去吧，他挺有印象的，就是相当是人把挺这啥的。
So if we just do the ranking of the Buddhist schools of thought, the most prominent one, right? At the lowest level are the Vaibhashikas, right? Reductionists, we call Chedamava, right? Then above them are the Sautrantikas, Dodeva, we call it. Then above them are the Chittamartins or mind-only school. Then we have the Madhyamikans or the middle way philosophers. So within that, we talk about Savatantika Madhyamikans who claim that reality is half-half. Half it exists from its side, half is imputed, right? And then the highest level are the Prasangika Madhyamikans who claim that everything is merely labeled, imputed by terms and concepts.
我这意思，但是如此他那的，养那大把这些，那一小康些时候的，电车上的小子们让你，就这样的就这么个效果是吧？他大把电车的呀，挺小的效果的感觉。
So as I said earlier, within Buddhist systems of thought or tenets, that all Buddhist philosophers accept the dependent arising of cause and effect, okay? But it's only Prasangika Madhyamikans who accept the dependent arising of, something merely imputed by terms and concept.
我这些现在养那大把这些，那一小康些，然后他们买出现的那个电子，什大。有些电的啥来呗？电胸也电多，他那全能有些电线是电把没把送烟的，送把烟弄，你呢？吞白样电多是，有些就没是全太能了。电车吧，你现在有的没多，的呢，这就这他们家电多，这大给通的呢，在这个当准备是做呢，门边电把先别是先宿舍学电把没的，就进了啥里边，电车一边去。本能送烟的送些吧，我是他早上打我这里过到这天的，电子下的，真的，现在打开始过那这个，现在用啥个？里面这些打，那么就打电子眼这些个是吧？我听到他做的电子些个是吧？现在他这打过那这个这些他，去看见那这个学习。让一毛这的语言的中文些是，他的语言就是说，我这个那电子这是我的，是电子啥的开始是，把人心搞我怎么样吧？这是都真的，电 ten shungsa shungya ji nyamdo ya hewe za in ten jung tenzi tenzi de nale tenzi ken karza tenzi kenda de pa rang hi ba ka ba to su rajim ya ba ti da ya ke merwa ta tenzi de tenzi de za ra hi ba ka jesi de yuba tengo ro seda te tani ji ja de se tenzi si de wa seda tenzi ribe je tenzi la do ribe je tenzi be juze kare se ko yuda de meda ni ka se do ris
So we're looking at stanza 144 there, and so here we are looking at the reasoning of dependent arising or Pratit Samutpat, Tendel in Tibetan. And of course, at the moment we are dealing with dependent arising of cause and effect, right? That kind of dependent arising. So of course an example is given, we call it a conducive illustrative example, Tunbe, right? Which has to do with reflection of a form, right? Which Geshe hasn't explained it yet. So of course, we said before, I mean, there could be many reasons that we could use to establish that something is empty of true existence or intrinsic existence. In the Buddhist treatises, at least we have identified 5 major or prominent reasonings, right? And among them, the reasoning of dependent arising, Pratit Samutpat, is regarded as the king of reasoning, and there's a reason behind that. And the reason is that dependent arising reasoning, it eliminates the both extremes, so to speak, together. The extreme of eternalism, which is the true existence, intrinsic existence, and the extreme of nihilism, which is not existing anything at all. Are you with me? And how that happens is that if you look at the word Tendel, Ten means dependent, well, Del has been translated as arising in English, related. The dependent, it really has the connotation or the meaning that nothing exists independently, isn't it? We are refuting, right, anything existing truly or intrinsically. But the Del, arising part, of course, maybe the English word doesn't give you that meaning. The Tibetan word Del, it affirms existence, isn't it? That means that it's not simply you are refuting or negating true existence, but you're also affirming existence of conventional existence of things. So that is the kind of what called characteristic of the reasoning of dependent arising. All other reasons we use, they are very good at refuting, negating true existence, intrinsic existence, but they are not necessarily affirming conventional existence. So that's why the dependent arising is regarded as the king of reasoning.
What is it? You know, what the Kevashi, that good dinner, they were dating, but she said that you are the Dutch in the Delhi. To some jokers, I didn't pay because here in the Delhi, you shot it. The Daisy Julia, that little few county or she said, that you don't show lovely here at the Dutch in the hill or whatever. She's a rosy mother. She does Susan Joseph, you touch it, Yacheva, she will be Dharma, which was the other one. She said, Timmy was in the quad of the storm. Here, mother. The semi to the only be shower the cable in the rapture of saying Shundago. But that time in the Tuba Jash was Karum was the thought that you not get the head tomorrow, the race.
So, I mean, how all this reasoning is used, I mean, logically speaking, that's what we talk about tak. It's just like syllogistic format, isn't it? So you take the topic or the subject, whatever X, right? Whatever something exists, it does not exist intrinsically or truly. That's a predicate because it's dependent arising. Okay? So it's a dependent arising of cause and effect, the dependent arising of mere imputation, right? And so that to be able to appreciate this whole logic, reasoning Buddhist, right? So it gets very complicated unless somebody has studied the Buddhist metaphysics for years. Even to be able to talk about this reasoning of dependent arising, how it can establish something as empty of integrity, it'll take a few months to explain that. Because now we say, why is this what we call the perfect reasoning, Da Yang Da? Well, it fulfills the three modes of analysis. Okay, what is three modes of analysis? Now you look at every one of them. That's how in the monastic they debate like endlessly about these things, just try to understand very deeply, right? Of course, so it requires a lot of background, extensive studies, the logical metaphysics studies, right? Otherwise, it makes no sense much there. That's why the Lamrim is very good for common people, because Lamrim is focused more on giving you the meaning of things, not going too much into details, isn't it? So you understand the concept, so we don't go into minutiae details to prove something or to explain something, isn't it?
Oh, that because the children are in the church, Eugene Lara Leve, the Jumatzam in base. Yedo long job trip de Jazu Shivalis, Louis Jazu said in Jerima. Keep a diesel shown torture. De Tada the Demba young Messie. Yoda Jay, Jada Shushi, you may give me Shuni, Yerman, Sheda, Sunye Pay, then a puppy, two young Dolly, Melotion. Yonda le sedara shimeba ye suyena tejendo joma chene shebaki hezo songsos o da de lulu ni go jose da de tenje be lung ka rigbache da de be juje de gazen dole song yas lui jazu shibale ne kebe deju don deju mo yo marise Odima Sungena Ipego Hasi said the Lunda Ribani go to Juba is or this or that.
So as often, we see that when something is established as whatever it is, there are two ways to approach it. One is through reasoning, right? Use of logic or analytical reasoning, which we did, using dependent arising as a tool or reasoning to establish something as being empty of true existence. The other one is to cite or quote the spiritual authority, right? Did Buddha talk about it at all? Or where did he talk about it, kind of thing? And this is where sutra is quoted in the extensive commentary. This is called Lu Jazu Shubedo. Is a sutta requested by a Naga king called Ocean. Okay, shouldn't translate the name again. I did that one. And this is where Buddha talk about how phenomena are dependent arising. Nothing is not dependent arising. So Buddha's words is used, and analytical reasoning is used to establish reality or whatever is being established.
What did it? Because Seda Dandi, Kandashida, Juda Mazu, Kashi Dema, Deba Yamarisi, Lang Danganzus, killing to Tatu, Deba may show soon the killing or so the killing what you think her is Dema may have tell a pad that she had Maduya Yaris. Dema you said you may pet on Yomar, she said. So the Timmy has that the me is a good of the shower.
So we find even within Buddhist schools of thought, there are schools who believe that things are truly existent. So they are asserting things truly exist. And then there are Buddhist schools that are like, things cannot and do not exist truly. So they don't agree with each other, isn't it? So if there's going to be debate between these two things, the one, I mean, of course, we always sort of incline towards the one who claimed that there is no true existence, because they said, we find a lot of examples to tell you how things appear in one way, they exist in another way, right? But on your side, you cannot find any good example, any example at all to explain your concept that things exist truly. Right? And that's one of the part of the reasonings, right? Yeah.
What is it? That the side, that the Yabati is you may go this series or the Super you may go this the sums. She was so. Things you drove this. Gyara shi chaba kaba, ti kaba rangshin ki chaba kikpa tenpa wu. Tena, siki nyamyi tu chaba tenpa wu. Tangpo ne, ngobo yewa so, kangpa chuchu ki tensi, ngobo kangshi rangshin yewa chaba, geshe juye, guba chiki yuade, rangshi chubi ngobo di, juyi kiki mi go ching, guna ya mi nimi shiro. Wante ngobo teta teni mewa ina ya, jeshi juyi guba chiki chay yuade, teni mewa juyi kiki mi nimi shiro. Yueba rangu ngobo chub sembe, jeshi mi gobe, jeshi mi goba se, Dime Yuba rangi ngo chup simbe, jeshi mi goba, jeshi mi goba se, dima meba, jijin unimi she, mibu. Meba langa jeshi migu jana, shiwa jaja ki juyi janga. Ngobo tene meba she, ngobo judu mede. Tenda ngume ribunga ratabu, juji shibe yudu mirungwe. Sukhangi janga, ngobo judu mede be shero. Der meba jeshi jumu goba, me jeba, ten mewa shi jujenji jene se, jembe sibe, tete jala goba yinje, ju sabon jes, tuna mebe se, jibu nyugu tu jawa goba ne mende, jende ji goba tangje se, ju tuna meba, shata yinba, shata jawa yinbi shir, yuba jawa gobi, tongyang, nga jene yu nyuwa tsa mayi menji, rangshi yuwa da, changshi bi yudu la yuwa dewa tabla goba yeno. Teta tamshi bi esa, tong tenzi ki jeba driba la, ngobo menjiruwa driba, ngobo teni mewa shi, ngobo judu mede. Kete yona ngome je se, neka matangwar, ngobo juwa yinam. Tangni juwa khayi, tawa shadi. Ngome je neka matang ngobo juna, ngome je neka matangwa, tingi ngobo neka shida yinde. Tongshi minebe neka tamu, tongshi nebe neka te, neka sosa takde jing, ngonge yinbi shir. Ngome je neka tangne, ngobo juna, ngome je neka tang semba te se, ngome yingo la, ngome mengo la, ngobo ri yang tadung jugo yinje, chul semba mayibe, ngobo member. Then ngobo ju sure the ngome the ngobo nikala he Phuntsok Gyeltsen kanshi yewa yindi. Tida misibi shero. Heya ngome yi neka madang wara ngobo chuna ngobo mebe neka yi tse ngobo yoba siwa mebe na di tse ngobo yoba namshik na jode ngome yi tuna ngobo majibi shero majibi shero ngome le mande so heya ngome yi neka tangni ngobo chuna ngobo chuna ngobo yinbe neka chewa majurba ne ngome yi neka dani joan jola ngome yi neka ne madena ne ngobo yiwe ka miside ngobo yiwe yi neka yi ngobo nguge yinbi shero wasa ngobo rashi yu chube ngome di menjowa chuba ne teta ngome da ngobo menjowa ngobo menjowa shendu rashi yu chube ngobo mewa jowa mende yina hichigla se che ngobo da che ngome yi rashi nisu chuba ta ju shero Here, women the over the county, and she you told you. Tijira, he hid your Naya message. Long put the indolence. He the children and he Guyana. George is a jebe, the changer. The Phuntsok Gyeltsen Young and da minjur. Kenam Naya said. Chuba me hedang sahele rashi hin juani naya teva maino he so dedane todo na nyugu cheji rashi jawa me de yeba rashi chuba meje meba rashi chuba meje we she perna motion pushin hewo wose tedaya to idujiba yeba Usually Shimale, Meva Meve, Shirmai. Shimitu Shiri, you maybe, Joa Major, Niga me, Jubale, you know, Geshe goes, Shizodam. Lamdole, Yuvaja, Remente, Shizoji, that you may jango down. Tashi jango, Joago Berigba. Chigda de day and those. Because this you may take was a Yuba. Tonda was Yuba. Tonda by any Yuba, the Meva take Maris. Told the Yuba, Yuveneka, the Miveneka, Madame Jagri, Tangi, Tango, Yuveneka, Dance and the Koja Yamara. That maybe Madame Jagri, you make you do it over. She said, you mean you got it, Yamari. She said, Yuba Toto, Majaba Thomas, you may go, this. Which is a here, they were decision. Terisha. This guy, none. Take it on what they did in the share. That other, you may go, this is the
So I think Shila read from page 177, stanza 145, and a couple of stanzas there. I can hear him reading through that. So in my footnote that might help you contextualize this a little bit, okay, first before I translate what Geshe said. So in this particular chapter of the Shantideva, right, out of the 5 prominent reasonings, he only talks about 3. Remember, we already talked about Vajra-pronged analysis of reasoning in investigating the causes, right? And then we just talked about reasoning of dependent arising to investigate the nature of phenomena, right? So now the third reasoning that we will look at is we called the reasoning investigating the effects or the result, but it is called refuting literally existence and non-existence, meaning refuting ultimate existence and ultimate non-existence. Yeah, so this is investigating the results. Now my footnote closed. I contextualize right where we are. Right? So Geshe will explain more. At this point, what Geshe said is this: that there cannot be what called something that exists ultimately. Now this is very hard even in English. The Tibetan word is ten tamper. Okay, something could not be produced ultimately and exist. Something could not be non-existent ultimately. Yeah, so we are refuting, right, ultimate production or existence and non-existence. And of course, Geshe will explain more now.
What is the you was it? Moving Kajako Ngumayina, Gumi my Nguma Mina, Gumi Kazagoyina, Gumi my Gumi, go my Goroa.
The woman said they can digit the Dimaja cigar, you have the members.
Did you go home? Is that did die? Rashi, you are the Mevasi. Ngubo, you was a constant, you what to say, you go with the Raji, who was over. You don't go with the other one.
So I think the terms that we find actually in the root text are which means thing and non-thing, or sometimes people might translate it as functional thing and non-functional things. I was asking, what does this really mean? Its context. So this means the non-thing has to do with inherent existence or production. Ngueme is inherent non-existence. Okay, that's the meaning of these terms in this context.
Oh, dear, that it didn't do not the radio. You could made, Java made, you were on Java Mike, Mevara Java Mike, but the motion pushing or Java was it. Today, don't you do about it? You usually get my Meva Meva say my Chimitu, you mean me, Java me. Nega me said, Juba Leja, you know, Geshe he's also because there the Rajib, you know, any Jago Maravas, Minan Jayamara, then me by Nico Jayamura and Jayamara. In the co you the way Ranja Carsa Jago Jessa was said that you mean you got the Jadi Raji, you about the Yuba in the co you as and called you gauge the Guayamari. And Roger Meva, Carsa, Roger Carsa, the Roger, you know, and the then you go shower that you are going to Roger, you are in, then you may nega meva. Utisha or that. Sure, and some of you, some of made them. Then the Negara de Yomarava. To the Timmy in the co because a regime thought with the mother of the hero that day.
Rushing in Mavin and Kia for a Yomar motion Punish.
What the Roshi, you know, John Tomon in the Koja or Yomara.
Someone may say the
Roshi, you know, Roshi, you know, Jaguar Yomars.
The men say the China may because so, if something were to exist truly or intrinsically, hypothetically speaking, then it would not require any causes for it to be brought into existence, right? Because it already exists intrinsically. There is no need for a cause to bring that into existence. And also, as we talked about this before, if something were to exist truly or intrinsically, it would have to exist forever as such, right? There should not be a time that it doesn't exist at all. There should not be randomness there, On the other hand, if something does not exist, if something is intrinsically non-existent, right, then it could not be brought into existence at all. The example given is a child of a barren woman. right? A barren woman cannot bring a child, right? So it's that example, right? Yeah.
我对他，可是让些语吧的，把干啥呢？这干啥呢？这这个是，可是叫有那见不过，没人见要么是不是？这些他一般这点说刚把些等是学呢，啊，通过叫让些，对的，叫让些没那搞把他捏把他提个个要么是吧，就把啥时候是吧？ 我现在这，同步的教没有的，让些么是的做，那让些教没有做是那让些搞把他捏把他，提动着这没有的，下了热住是吧？ 现在他们早着的，让些教没有的做不影响了，让些教没呢，搞把没有教没有是在些个的么热都的，他们教没有的，搞把没教没有的，主要就当什么的。 教让些没呢，你现在个没有查住是吧？现在的早就都意思是吧？
So the focus initially is given on refuting intrinsic or inherent production, right? Something could not be produced truly or intrinsically or inherently, right? If that can be established, then it becomes understandable that something could not endure or exist intrinsically. Something cannot cease to exist intrinsically or inherently, isn't it? So we are able to refute intrinsic production, intrinsic endurance, never, and existence, intrinsic cessation. Yeah, so the first thing is to prove or establish that nothing can be produced intrinsically. Yeah, so that is how it starts off. As Geshe recalls from his memory in the Mula Madhyamika, the root text, fundamental wisdom, it starts with what's called, there is no inherent production or endurance and cessation. Things are free of extremes like that. Right? There's a whole root text lines in the fundamental wisdom treatise.
我这但是教上一面呢，那搞把那把到刚刚上一面全做一下，快老是做过有么说，就是教上一面主要的意思，这是个事，这些那个是让人有嘛有呢，真的选呢，选干了呀，见干那是让人有个面别不第一些，主要的他们这呢，最大的让人就没结巴的。 蛮搞不的，随便去玩的，让些两个人在外你一弄，大的协会人搞嘛一般，我去推上去的，让些每年也不点多，就这样，一些那人多的，西边路就怎么弄，今天那的没被修了，就现在工作真的讲。 确实可乐高呢，虽然你现行嘛结巴，让些两个人在外也，确能过不你一点，接受松弛。我这里感觉，但是让家没啥的，让些家没啥的，对他们这没啥么的，要上次家的不是，对他们这家没啥这个意思，让些家啥的，那边对他有熊要么是。 他当然要么的，忙把那那让些叫是用么的是，现在可对那个要么的是，那么样是我的意思，我的意思。
So when we talk about how there cannot be intrinsic production or inherent production, Rangshin Kyawam in Tibetan, that applies to all the three times, isn't it? Nothing in the past had ever been produced intrinsically, and nothing in the present could be produced intrinsically, and nothing in the future, right, will ever be produced intrinsically. So it's not like, sometimes you cannot produce this, other times it might, right? That's not what it is. Means when we refute intrinsic production, it applies to all the three times.
Right? 我在地控制的底下呢，人说。 도세야 될 송이세로 대단히 이신나와 진도래 다디 게임에 쉐니 디신 쉐는 당시에 대화식단자 시벨로제 세만은 제만나 지den나네 매베 쉐르 제다 군조 진리경 최이 콜로코아나 스웨니 시이 마제파 라연양은 대화이 최는 고보 최이 때 해서 송스 디다 콘드디 희나지 도송지 도지 최카레나 라시 자다 라시 가고세야 제요 머선 희나지 도세야지다 이 커서 대모 도직데 커서디
구조지.
군조 진세 도 인콩 쉐르와 어디리샤.
So there are two sutras cited in the extensive commentary. One is the Kunjo Chengido Ratnakutra Sutra, means jewel, spring jewel sutra, translating Kunjo Chen. The other one is called Ishinawa Genjido. It's the sutra called ornament of like exalted wisdom or something like that. So in both sutras, there's mention of how there cannot be intrinsic production, intrinsic cessation, right? Yeah.
어디 다 거기 되마 시다 수만에서 좋아지다 강바시 된스 리녀제 엉그 시바를 신비 좋아하는 야 명음지 나왔다 부터 낭조다 샤시 만제바 소소나시 내조다 라시지 줘봐 중세장 매비셔로 대담문다부 셔너 랑원이 축도받다 나야 대코나니를 제베릭베 되나 예다소시다 이 넘버제나 추시는 인부자와 등자데 랑시지 줘베 인부 조세제 매비셔로 미니비셔로 대마스 세바 정시 샤소 내 주에 내가 인양을 대받아 세바 군주 조에 리녀 신화 탐부 호외 종을 담비 내가 인양을 다와 양을 만대버 코아니가야 디코는 이디 치와메데 시시니가 라시지 메뉴이 셔로 대다에 땡이지 제볼에 시베 조아 메는다부테 델라 메지 소용 시와미 심지 메당 소자 미데 최된다니 와 시신자 해단 시제 시신론배 동벌라 닝부 뒤실 기분이 샤장 나다 싫으구나 닝법이 쉬는 탐시 되게 쉬바지 쉬송을 시인년이도 집에 수용 사실에 고안양은 대발이 제발 중세 위험하이 냥은 대발 고안리 제발 중세 위험하이 냥은 대다 강의봐 근데 코에 타입니다. 뒤에 개발 중세네 현주 차 예만 해송소 어때리야다 건지 지도는 이 시바도 해왔으나 코아서 봐. 해왔으나 냥디 타바 담지시면서 쇼 뒤 쳐요디 동다봐 내가 좀 시기념이 좋았어요. 그래서 군인가 러시아 맞아 냠바니레스 제자요 말스 시바 러시아 저저 쇼아는 저 뒤에 쳐봐지요 러시아 맞아 냠을 찍어지게 맞아 들려 그 시바라 여저 코아라 맞아 저 코아라 이제 시바라 맞아 저 가서 냥대랑 이 맞아 세야죠 어떻게 쳐봐요 말이야 들 시기념이 세들이
So Gisela, read stanzas 150 and 51, and the one he just explained, of course, related to both, more on the, let me see, the 50, 150. So as Gisela explained, that conventionally, we do find differences between Siva, cyclic existence, and Shiva, peace of the nirvana or complete enlightenment. But both samsara and nirvana, in terms of emptiness of true existence, are equal, just the same. This is called shishinyami, right? The equality between samsara and nirvana. Right? It's not that samsara is truly existent and nirvana is not truly existent, or vice versa. Both are not truly existent. So from that point of view, right, samsara and nirvana, lack ultimate existence. So they are equal on that nature.
어디 다 숨바 돈이도 해라 개발라 담벌 제가 배벌 담벌 거니 돈도 왔으니까 더 돈이도 와서 다 거기 코알차 누가 강가베 에네 거기서 돈이 못 얻는 용거리다 타바타비시면 거기서 내 돈이도 오고 여러분 세자자 돈이도 어디 세자 게드시 뭐 여자 이제 무슨 돈이도 더 버시고 그랬지.
So the next point is exhorting us and anybody else who want to be free from samsara to make efforts to understand and realize emptiness, right? In other words, why we are going round and round in samsara is because of lack of understanding emptiness, shunyata, sunyata, isn't it? So it's very essential, not just vital, for us to understand and realize emptiness if we would like to get out of samsara.
Siben Yimuk Dembogone, Yingshibu, Migba Demba. Laxon the Jay Gone, Yingshibu, Nabin not Demba was, or there was the Cursa, Subatoni Doba, La Beba, Tony to at the Cursa days that some Chun Yami Nagatabu, Dendes. 통도발 배워다마서 돈이도 그래서 담야직시 다 시베 니미 때문에 거네 인제 전부 미버대 바스 다다 시베 니미도 랑송시고 뭐이바 심지 다지 코알 데 돈이 인제 전부 겨우 트레딩스고서 되는 학생들 데 거네 인제 전부서 남변 제도 때문에 뭐 학생세야디 현도 쿠르제스야 그게 심지어 누군 되게 마세바 아카사스 지고 뭐해봐 근데 텔제야 소소베 코르벨 캐터고리스야 어떻게 그야 심제 도야 텔 쿠르제 인지스기도 심마세 다다 인지셔서 텔 담지 패쳐들이 혀오르와 근데 마트 그게 풀 인지에는 그게 풀 매동적이 사디에나 인텔 동그 선배야 뽑아줘 니도가 말이지. 근데 그게 닝도 저 샤야다. 근데 그 그게 매동날이야 동야기 내 동그서 그게 심도 제고 말이지. 세대 그게 닝저야디 인제 흉세중도 어디 샤워다.
So there are three things that are mentioned. One is how both samsara and nirvana are equal in that they lack true existence. So from that point of view, the ultimate nature is space-like, right? It's very, vital and essential for us to understand and realize emptiness if we want to be out of samsara. The another point that's being made is, by reflecting on the faults of being in samsara, single existence, that we are able to develop compassion, karuna for sentient beings, because sentient beings are the focus of our compassion, isn't it? And reflecting on the samsara nature, how we are all caught up in samsara, then we are able to, that helps us to generate compassion for sentient beings. The third point is, to be able to do something, it's not just enough to have compassion, but we need to have what we call laksam, special intention. In other words, the willpower that I'm going to take the responsibility on my shoulder, that courage, right, to be able to alleviate the suffering of sentient beings. So as Geshe said, compassion is a very wonderful state of mind, wishing everybody else to be free from suffering, but that's not enough, isn't it? So we have to have that sense of willpower that I would like to do anything I could to be able to fulfill, right, that goal. And so that's called laksam. Laksam means I'm going to shoulder the responsibility of others, isn't it? Maybe in my phone, as if that's my job, my happiness job. I'm going to do this, right? Geshe didn't say that, so that's why I said footnote. Anything in the footnote is me. If anything goes wrong, your translator is going wrong there. That's my technique, by the way. So the example that's given about to illustrate the special willpower or laksam, special thought or courage is like, say, that of the courage of a father that who can jump into the fire pit to save his child, isn't it? In this particular case, the mother has so much compassion, right? But somehow she may not necessarily have the courage. We are not saying mothers will never have, right, footnote. But whereas the father not only feels that compassion, but has the courage to jump into the fire pit and save the child, kind of thing. So that's the difference between just having compassion and having compassion characterized by, yes, I can, kind of thing, right? That willpower.
What is that? Because so sure no nyani nangata budende toba beva damba tangbuni de tongba ni so kangba juhi dance nga shige shewa de dar rangshi tongbe ngubo tanji dikona ni ngweni shene niba toba la gawaji ye niba mazaba le 쇼왕 메가 메 지시지요 강사 강의 뜻이 림저세발라 가와시바 메디 요소 니에바세발라야 메가 지기에 리스라세 대원종알라 가와지와 동요 조알라 메가 세바 야 주제 강레이 메냐바 메 잡에 이메데와 메가 세바시 년바다 작과 쇼에 쇼 가량의 지기에 매도 대단한 지대 세계레세 니소지 희중아 가바다 마녀버소지 세메가 메베 주제야 장시지 거네 현의 당시 냠바니디 네힘 냠바니라 시베주 나와들 따도 셴바다게세 토요소 당 가메가소 미님베시 이 쉐카야 메데베 쉐로고세 데다게시 냠이 동도베 실레 쉐기 고님 동질 고님 주데라 말 수베 리울 니소히 님 심바다 텔레스 도베 He Yoden, some the Kunzogi, Nabajengi, God the Shugi Gonu Damba, Yishing. Did the Konani guess, Nabajengi, God the Gonum Damba, Yino. Niluk some, the Konani do, the Konani do, Trumor, Shushi, regret. 去年一到多在的，现在呢，西巴现在，西巴现在西巴出门着，就是一日边去那一点子，这西巴现在，西巴不看啥，西行，西巴这有可能西的。 Sibe koso rashi ye chwa bebe shir. Nga shi tingi la chewe rikpe chewa na. Sombe jikden de jikden tso ji, jikden jikzo je pungpo. Dakshi so ne tabi jibu dadang kansa kanshi de ne shiwa jo de. Shibo shibe jibu dang. Siba Simon Joa Kanyba, Jibutan, Siba Nama Shua Chewe, Jibu Kanya, Kanshi Yinde, Soba the Che, Jibu Nashi Jibu Tame Jibu Tamji Janga, Rashi Chewe, Majupi Cherry, Pendobe, Nienda. 一就为是，咱西讲，康熙人的，第一讲让西就马上为事，第二呢，学到是2百年，哪个是这样呢？熊怎么不学了大这，当这用手送啊，用手送啊，继续接，继续个救了大把的。 东一道北，南的你呢？实在就是的，他把的他们先把他这个就做一笔钱喽。南个的这样，南个特别人家的车像你像我的，这东西你有个，人性这个高下的车像你，赢了，这样样。 切中没一边，他也得上去他就，这种的小别是，弄到因说老哥吧，这样多是，我这个是的，可今天学习办公室的，可是这是我的，今天学习噻，学习噻，我就学习噻，给那都是个什么？我可就。 快点，能够宁可有嘛了，爸爸可是觉得爸爸可了嘛都，因为学习那意思啊，你今天学习办公室，今天学习办公室呢，因为这个宁可这的两个人，我的团队都提了一些噻。
So Gisela read a couple of stanzas from stanza 151 and onward on page 179. And as Krishna started to explain that by reflecting on the sameness or equality between samsara and nirvana in terms of emptiness, we should get rid of the 8 worldly concerns. Okay? So try to understand that. Really, nothing in samsara has any essence, right? These 8 worldly concerns are without any essence, just like a plantain tree, or we might call banana tree. Like if you look at a banana tree and open it, there's nothing there. It's just nothing. So like that, there is no essence in the 8 worldly concerns. And reflecting on the emptiness, we should counteract, our just interest in 8 worldly concerns. So, Geshe would like to stop there today, and we would like to welcome your questions. First, we will go online, our Dharma friends in the cyberspace, and then we'll come back here.
Thank you. It's a little bit long, but I'll try to summarize it. She says, I can understand the concept of phenomena, how it doesn't exist intrinsically because of labeling, constant changes, cause and effects.
Okay, so you need to slow down a little bit. She can understand the concept of phenomena or nominal?
Oh, I'm sorry. The concept of how phenomena doesn't exist intrinsically.
Oh, okay.
Right. But she has difficulty applying this to the subtle mind.
Uh-huh.
Right? That apparently has no beginning or end and continues over many eons until it reaches enlightenment. She says, my mind sees this as a truly existent entity that continues throughout time, experiencing various different lives over time. And so she's asking, can Geshe explain how the continuity of the subtle mind differs from true existence? Right? Is the subtle mind not intrinsically existent because it constantly changes and generates different karma and merit with each lifetime?
Okay.
That's her question.
Sure. Thank you. Trajet on the condition the Rowagan. Trajet on the condition Chigi, Chida, and a churnam, a temper maduwa, Ranshi Madubuki, the Quada Mosan, and Decoran, this robs have Gudus are Wagan. In the same tower chair Wagan. Gasol that Yavangaman the day and Dina Chimato the chair Wagan. The same tower, the Chichena Morasamba, that the Rangshin Dubaman was Temper Duba again. Rocket bed, unity or again. There's a same tower, the and Temper Montebe Jumzen career, same tower, the good Juratim Nera, same tower, the Jurjin, less Agios, Digi Rangshin Maduba, Canena, that became the Sessions Tangos. Same tower, the Rangshin Maduba Jumzen.
Same tower, zero.
The same tower did that. Day on dinner, she might do the rocket. You need to use some more Russian do the.
She said, this is the patient, dear, that was a unit of huge him and me. You watch over the way, some will live or what did that on you? Only here.
No, so. Then it can test the session again. Same tower, the Russian Maduva, Yimbajum said,
no, she might have used the Garrison, some toy in that got rock by the current. Call Eugene myself doing Jordan to war mother to call. Because it's on you to buy in the court then the Chikma on Diego. But Chikma Diego Mara. But you do the Portuguese, Chikma Diego Mari. John Levinicol, the Kazak, Chavas, Chikma said, Tam the Dejo, Kazaka Chikamoti, Chikma Diego Mara. That's what you don't try them in the court Chikma Diego.
The same tower the Michigan D. Laminate digger another, same tower, you send the Kogi or what city can Kokoran 10 days or again. Really? 10 days, a deal laminate digger again.
Really, that Kokoran, June to Theatre, Rashi Mother is the duty to Rashi drive the duty as
So the first, when you say subtle mind, we don't know exactly what you're thinking about, right? Our assumption is maybe you're talking about the subtle mind of the clear light, perhaps not. You just have to tell us that, right? Because we don't want to say something you're not asking. So, but the reason you suggested, right, that is the reason. It's part of the reason why subtle mind, whatever you are thinking, it does not exist truly or intrinsically, right? Anything that undergoes changes, right? Whether it is creating karma or it's taking rebirth, right? Sometimes it's in a good state of existence, other times it's in a not so good state of existence. That shows that it does not exist intrinsically, right? If something exists intrinsically, even the subtle mind, then it would have to exist like that forever, and nothing can change it. That it cannot have a continuity, like from past life to this life and this life into the next life, right? So that's what I'm thinking. So whatever the subtle mind you are thinking, we just think reason you are giving is part of that reason. But we may be thinking you're talking about the subtle clear light mind, even not anyway. We don't talk about that.
So I actually had a similar question to this. I think, the way I'm understanding her question is, I think this I think she may be talking about this really self or I, this permanent person, like that just continues on. I think, and it's hard to, I mean, I guess it would be hard to explain to it, but it does feel like there's this continuous person, never changing, permanent self. I mean, that's what how I'm understanding her, and it's very subtle. She's saying yes, and so I guess that's that's the difficulty even I have with understanding how that can be not intrinsically existent, right? Because it does feel very like permanent, just like not changing, at least that's how I'm understanding her concept of this person or self or mind or side of mind,
Okay.
right? It's just this very, very, I mean, I myself, I know like I'm getting old, I'm Carlos, and I'm, number of years old now and stuff. So there's, and I'm getting old, right? But there is this person, right? There's very, very subtle,
So you mean
subtle.
Carlos is not aging?
Carlos is what?
So by that you mean Carlos is not aging, that person Carlos is permanent there?
Yeah, but there
You
is
are
this
aging, but
Carlos,
Carlos is still
there's
permanent?
this Carlos who's just like, who never really changed much, or at least doesn't feel like it has, like there's this permanent self, like there's this that just continues on, like it's almost like, yeah, like I don't know, like this I that just like me that just is not different, right, from like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and it's just the same. It's almost like this continuous, I think, person that just doesn't feel like we have that there hasn't been much change. I guess that's
Okay. Okay. So you use the word person and the self and I and Carlos. You mean all of them same, right? But there's something you think that yesterday whatever you were is here today. Nothing seems to have changed, and tomorrow probably you will be the same. Is that the kind of person, self, I, Carlos?
yeah
you think?
yeah
Okay. Well, let me get that to Geshe-la. Tagi pigi tajane tiwa shubadi mutin Quran samla tangba ina rawage. Ji Quran ta ngasene mindu kangsa sene thase jo rawage. Di dosta de kanli ya ji gyo me takbar ching dos rawage. Takbe sor shwa dos samtang rawage. Pena Quran min Carlos rawage. Ta khazan ke Carlos ta tiring ke Carlos ta sanyi ke Carlos por jo shibu du mar rawage Quran ji bar sin de rawage. Saza andinde kangsa de rangshin du mar takbo mar wes gorge. Shira jubu dobske sona yung mat rawage. Ta ko lo digas le da Carlos lage mide te de rawage. O di ken deses kyung mero.
Tide ta le de le la do ye ya.
No.
Ko karza Carlos ya tangbo bu chung ju she. Ko takba ni ko thara tangbo kan de de rang ja rang de ra. Ko ju ju tangbo de ka la de ya bu ju ju. Te ya de ju da ni ye ji de be ju. Ni ju bo ra yo so ju ju ra.
No, so.
So ko chig re takba ya bu de.
No. Did comment in the case on the Tiri, you must soon borrow said that you were not that is tanging chicken.
That is Carson.
On the tanging chicken.
Reduce Geshe gate over the Geshe Chau Gea, the Gazo Haku Marata, no more the Baruson, in Geshe in Haku, Gegas, Sing on Super Ribatana. Geshe gate over Dev gate over Marva. Oh, did it? The Ganzu Muda was at the Ganzuja Muda was Shindra, the Muda was security. The Pesha. Geshe you are the Geshe Yomara. Ready in a children, they could definitely but hop the dormer, Kale, never shown to initiate water.
No.
So I did see that did it go down bed? That was my same to go over it.
No, so. The chin on the day, what they so the tanging one which you wrote.
No, the dancing is a quite hard, but you go getting good at the Hakumara.
So Geshe says, of course, if we have a sense that not much has changed, Carlos or I or self, whatever using your example, it is because of a number of reasons. One is because of our grasping at permanence of, right, I, self, person, Carlos, Tenzin, right? That's that. The other thing is that really we don't understand or realize, I should rather say, the subtle impermanence, right? How things are changing from moment to moment, right? That's something we haven't realized. But this is nonetheless been happening, right? If you look and check on your album when you're first born as a baby, right? And now look at yourself, how much change has happened. And it has incrementally, subtly happened, right? Nobody gets old overnight, because that would be like, oh my gosh, disaster kind of thing, right? But slowly, all of this adds up. And then when some milestone things happen, we're like, oh my gosh, I really changed a lot, right? Then we realize it. Until then, all this momentary changes happening is adding to that, but we don't realize it, isn't it? Even like when people, when they talk about impermanence, I know I'm going to die someday. That's what we think. But it's not like we die all of a sudden. It's just like all this, the momentary disintegration, the life is getting less and less short, and all of this is adding up, and then boom, right? That's what you realize. But we don't realize these momentary changes in happening. So that is an indicator that Carlos, I, self, person is not permanent. It's just our grasping a permanence of life. So therefore, it doesn't exist intrinsically. So hopefully that clarifies something. Yeah. Are we coming back here? Would you like to grab the mic from Carlos? Oh, you have a mic, okay. Boy, we have resources. Yeah. Would you like to bring the mic?
Yeah, I'm going to have a little trouble articulating this, but I'm looking for a practical guidance to increase my ignorance, to decrease my ignorance, and to increase my wisdom along these lines. I have my own concept. I rarely practice this, although I read about it years ago as a way of recognizing dependent arising. Also impermanence, I guess it could be thought of. But in that case, it's contemplating material goods. The table, before it was a table, someone assembled it. Before it was assembled, it was boards that had to be cut. Before that, it was a tree. Before that, going back into the beginning of the earth, the causes and conditions that caused it to come into being. That kind of contemplation of material dependent arising, not a subtler kind of understanding, but that seems useful to me. It doesn't feel right somehow, but it feels at least useful for where I am. So I'm asking about that practice, but I'm also asking, if I hear contemplate the equanimity between nirvana and samsara, that gives me a moment of, that's really important, but I can't hold it. When I leave this room, it won't be with me. When I'm sitting and meditating, it will be too subtle for me to grasp. So rather than the broad brush contemplate this, I'm wondering if there are specific practices that Geshe might recommend.
So specific practice to enhance what you're already thinking about, or
to deepen my
understanding of dependent arising?
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, and whether the material contemplation of a material object is in Geshe's eyes valuable.
Okay. Mora condition de dirse roage. Tachi ke Kot tebo chedang ta laglen ran liya chik roage. Hayo layo ro chik roa. Je mora namju da gyurung with samlan di chigwe sa ta midaba ine re tende chai de roage. Chingobe che ben chokse ro cha shan de roage. Ta di sing chok de tama ya ya dron singdong jine chung roage. Ta singdong de khol chik chana khore saben le chung ne ji chung de roage. Ta sing ma che mi se ko chokse se that ko child go to the summer down again. Jidugalia and a G Carso test bena 10 day goal again. Test is Kodor Slinger, which do Dum the Chago again. In that this Chigi Koji Caso Dangar Shusama, Samatanda Yorwage. So that 10 day Koa March, there's several style career Pentanda, Sishin Yami saying they do the better Chadash in the Roge. The Samatanda Kaya Lavira Roge, sometimes Kabudos Roge. That 10 day Koa March is subtime, but more than the cheese sugar. Chokes over the day, sometime Ragbara, something that they tend to call legal again. That the call must subtime, higher live, sometime that carrying us again. Chuckle in the member.
Ria da Kaji Kataya. Did this I can't young doing Kata in the car. You're the game to Judos in any court you go to mother. Today, Jim ever the Gadu would cheer you wear your mara. So I did do in a Jackie do in the Karina. Who cut the game of the Joe and the Delta and you don't live.
No. So what Geshe wants to say is that, of course, you use the kind of material table or whatever, right, as example, which gives you a certain sense of the dependent arising, right, in that sense. But Geshe thought maybe one way to sort of deepen that is if you bring it sort of home to yourself, that things happening to your life, right, the happiness and the suffering, whatever, these don't happen randomly. Right, there are causes and conditions playing out, right? Things going well with you, and the things not so going well with you, right? So in that way, I think it becomes more sort of personalized, and that might help you to be able to deepen your understanding of dependent arising there. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Anybody else would like in the back seat? Sometimes we miss all of you. Any questions? Okay. Then we go to right. Yeah, sure.
Oh, Vladimir and then.
Okay.
About the magician's illusion, I understand that this mostly a Svatantrika example, but in the hands of the Prasangika, would the treatment of this same example, would they eliminate the need for twigs and pebbles? Because I understand that according to Svatantrikas, they need twigs and pebbles on the basis of which to project the horse and elephants. That indicates that 50% comes from the intrinsic, the inherent existence of things. But the Prasangika, would they say that there is no need for twigs and pebbles?
Okay, thank you. Very clear to me. Koran kandi shwe de dire ta tagi de khen karsa ko rangshin mandu we pechi di yuma khen gi ane diusing le talang tu ro ge di pe di tanda uma rangju ba ro ge sha de ro sa ro ge ta uma rangju be kan sana ko yugen we ne chi gi ta ba ngane ta la de kala ane ko karsa diusing da talang diusing gong er ro ge ta uma tenju be che we na diusing me ba thon ro ge Talang true to British India Google country race that woman think you will pay Shavina, that did under Petagana position again. Division the Mogoche.
Dada Jimeta is a pay your lodgers in this world. 10 years in the due down let you down to let it. Tugger drew by Yazora. Tugger drew said the car. So number you can't. Bizon si go ma ta yu me se wa do dire ji da ni kilo ju da se dire ji den de de so ma do ji dire ka me lang sa ko ta da ju ri so ni ji no jia ji se da de to ba ji wo ma ji ji pe ta de go ni ka ji ga sen ji ke le ga de xi ga ma ba ta yu ji da ji ya de no ya de ka se no yu xin la nga ja sho me la nga ja yu xin la nga ja in the horrible Russian Jigger Magi, the Rasjamara. She said, Toba doesn't continue in a regime or repel, Toba doesn't yards ago. Tenjo was in it, because the Rangi was in the Jimeta on the Siguri.
Geshe under the Rangi, we pet Tagana, Tinju be Pesha to go, Dushing Mogoch and Talang Tube, and Della took Maroge.
My Dushing
never sent that the pet Tagana Pesha 7, nothing you but.
Yeah, Pesha, she showed it. And the Dushing Yakas in the Tugger drew the Jimep down there, yards ago. Curse copy using one near Tuyada, Lucia, but you know, she really go. Tugger drew the Lucia, 잡아 주고 유익은 여봐라.
그래.
그래서 정지방에 유익은 여봐다. 너희가 인도 지거라.
디하고스게 계시 디우싱 탈랑기 다가 페랑 페제 다가 체니 오마 텐주부 그다음에 디우싱 먹어 체니 떡배 딱 와서 탈람 루바 셰트고 있는 배 다가나 베주 체니
뭐다 디우싱도 샤쇼 가이가 준비배 샤거라 봐. 다 준비배 될 디우기다.
알리나 마자 부고 말다
라.
마자 부고 말다 오마 텐주부 체면 나 마자 베chen 디우싱 베주 chen 탈람 투도 거
디디 말에 이렇게 디케자 그만 그 빼고 총당을 될 디우시다나 나마여나 디우다나 여 말아.
그래
나
오마 텐주부
다 타자 주는데 가가 소소 짜고 말아. 그 정신 난 거라. 어디서 와.
Okay, I will translate what Geshe said because I was trying to get to explain the same example from Prasangika, but Geshe is not doing it somehow. So you're right. Prasangika Madhyamikans, Umar Rangyuba in Tibetan, they use the magician, right, who use the tricks and pebbles and to create elephants and horses. And because tricks and pebbles, what they do is they have to they have to mantraize the tricks and pebbles, right, to appear as horses and elephants. And then they have to mantraize the perception. So it's a 50-50 in that sense, isn't it? They have to have tricks and pebbles, they put mantra on that, and then they put mantra on the perception spectator so that they have this 50-50, that's how I explain. Prasangika Madhyamikans, they prefer to use the example of a coiled rope, right, perceived as a snake. And the reason for this is that under a given conditions, right, there's a coiled rope, it's a little dark, whatever. So then we might misperceive that there's a snake. It's just a projection by the mind, isn't it? There is no snake at all, right? You did not put mantra or anything there. It has no relevance, but it's just that. So that's the Prasangikas prefer this later example. Then I was trying to push Geshe like, if Prasangika uses the seventh, can we Geshe like, he's not explaining it, so I just give up.
Was there any a point in time when people were able to do that? Do such magicians still exist? Is this something a thing of the past, or is it just some kind of an invented story? And if it's true, what kind of level of realization what somebody would need in order to be able to do that, to produce horse and elephants on the basis of?
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Kurang danda di diushing talang de truba se de roba pechi roba ge rangju bege. Pe di ngar chung shaba se dingsan dinde chetunga yora yoma re sarwa ge.
나
Diushing talang tru tubeng ki juma kan je roba ge. Ngar ge pe shaba se dingsan pe de ngos dinde chutunga yora ve sa ge. Yewe nan delia ene ko chi yenden ra kar sang ko se diushing talang do nang tube gi da ko chi nyubar ko roba ge. Di yora yoma re sa ge.
알레 데
주마킹이 디우신 달랑 주야 돼. 등산 영어 쳐거래. 제통에 열어 말해.
등산 탄다 디야 주마 땡게 열어. 저 따라서 주마 선대 말이. 등산 땡게 열어.
그래. 이제 셔도 그래서 가봐이네로.
근데 가서 지금 몇때 하도 담을 때 하도 디가 주마로 와.
그래. Yeah, Geshe thinks that that example, we should be able to find even today, right? The magicians who can play tricks on anything, right? They can show butterflies out of nothing, or that's possible. It's not just something exists in the ancient time, right? It's just the magic tricks, right? Right. It just they need the Quran didn't say to new but it's karu ko re se chi ko ge ben nga du the summer stay ko re nga da Geshe Gyeltsen yung ko ka se ko.
뭐 야, 그런 지금 다 네가 세버해야 돼. 그런 야, 기본 그때 강가 때도 뭐 그런 높은 좀 지금 해야 이제 와지.
Geshe says, yeah, I don't know exactly what training they have to go through, right? So they have to have, whatever they needed to have that ability, right, to be able to create horses and elephants out of the tricks and pebbles. But Geshe doesn't know what goes into, right? Level of concentration, right? What level of what? Concentration. Yeah. The thing is in the tourist school or culture or something. The truth is the thing is in.
땡인데 뭐배 신의 되자 그거 말이. 그런 다 지금 사무통하지 나장하지 그래서 뭐 지바지 유지와.
Yeah, Geshe doesn't think that they need a very high level of concentration like shamatha. They might need a certain amount of, right? And then whatever tricks or whatever, right, they need to do that. Yeah. Yes.
This goes back to
that will be the last one. Yeah, at the time. Yeah.
okay. This goes back to the conversation about the subtle mind, the I.
Yes.
So she's asking, so what is it that continues from life to life, right? And well, how do you know what you practice gets carried on to the next life?
Sure. Condition the target on it. Okay. Then the shit. Kiawa Ching ne chikla part drogan de kari dugo re sarwage de shin de travel da same dugo rawage ye dugo yobe na shin de travel same digi tanda nyamlen che bada diga de paksa de kandis ke dugo re sa kiawa shumar pen go rawage odi chi de shi chong ma do shin de travel same de kiawa Ching ne chi ne gen roding en che rawage da digi yago che be ne nyamlen che be paksa de ko ke dugo rawage odi ken de shi chong ma do
아 되게 거려왔다. 그 렌제스야 되셔. 다들 같이 단다 내가 같이 되게 드블 람사 주고말디 코 네바 잡세 되게 졸 깨는 뭐서니 이네 거 상이 저 드블 칼칼 미가 셔고로. 어디 박자드면은 이네 양에다 주메게 상에 두개가 주메게 샤르고.
So what Geshe says is that from that perspective of there is the subtlest mind that goes from one life into another life, the actual text, the rebirth. Whatever like karmic actions, good and bad, practice we do, all of them leave their imprints on that mind. Yeah? And then when the imprints get activated, so accordingly different rebirths and results happen, isn't it? If imprints are not deposited on that subtle mind, then we end up with that position that things happen without causes and conditions, right? Anything can happen, because that's not what it is, right? Good and bad, or good rebirth, bad rebirth, all of these things are because of the cause and the conditions and the imprints deposited on the subtle mind. Okay. So we'll stop there today and we'll continue next week. So we don't have actual prayer requests, but we can always pray for all, and we will do the dedication prayer, this booklet. Page 3. Lord Jazu, Udum, Bergadin, Yazam, Puve, Judo, Mimba-shin, Demba, Zilla, Wando, Teacher, Tanyan, Shogun, Chola, Sowan, page 5. Mawan Dame, Gunyan, Dongwa, De, Kanri, Jongso, Yinda, Senze, Jamgun, Yawa, Niwa, Yapse, Zhangson, Tenzin, Mawe, Shiva, Tenzin, Sheve, Jingbon, Zebe, Shije, Nigun, Changzhu, Dendu, Longda, Tamzhe, Bebe, Beyuan, Duja, Yazu, Gundo, Shabde, Tezan, Gondan, Cheze, Zombe, Yongzo, Yure, Tube, Nyage, Longli, Dejin, Nube, Bedemba, Tubden, Kanri, Dabo, Dona, Gomen, Zeba, Namda, Gun, Dendan, Rove, Pende, Jumbe, Tundro, Jimmy, Chebe, Tenleje, Kezan, Duje, Dendo, Shabde, Chizin, Lame, Tuge, Mulamda, Kezan, Duje, Dendan, Zame, Chozon, Todo, Chizon, Domba, Chida, Meme, Dungun, Lundo, Show. Page 9. Ramjan, Jinge, Gombo, Seba, Me, Zudo, Namje, Yeyun, Drama, Chojo, Seye, Lazo, Tamje, Daden, Mishe, Choge, Mudu, Tubden, Jeda, Losa, Yawa, Ye, Shiro, Demban, Zembe, Beye, Tadun, Duje, Yongwe, Shenyen, Cho, Yangdun, Yinje, Ombo, Sowa, Jiden, Sungwe, Chana, Bemen, Dembe, Zawa, Soso, Tawa, Namda, Chujin, Yangda, Langba, Ye, Losa, Yeden, Bedo, Shete, Tejo, Jajin, Nongze, Yangbe, Shen, Sangjo, Nangje, Sangzin, Jombe, Gomjon, Shela, Songjo, Debe, Dembe, Mada, Chenbo, Shabden, Sho, Chebe, Dongma, Kowa, Bojo, Zembe, Rilan, Siyu, Bumda, Zembe, Denden, Beshe, Kiro Shinyin Shenpo Shabden Sho Kebe Langdo Kushe Zeda Je Zunbe Tara Nyezo Rangsa Sangbe Duje Rebo Yishe No Sumden Shinyin Shenpo Tesan Rola Jove Dende Je Menjo Taje Zangme Sijin Labjen Zidin Dende Besha Chenden Shinyin Shenpo Shabden Sho Chozon Yawa Seje Chenla Toden Tamjin Songme Chenle Jen Daja Lasan Dabe Denbe Cheda Membe Dungun Lundo Sho Chanjo Simjo Rinpo Che Maje Bana Jeju Yewa Nyamba Meba Kone Wondo Pewa Sho Dongni Dawa Rinpo Che Maje Bana Jeju Yewa Nyamba Kone Gongdon Pewa Sho Sa Shi Beijing Joshi Mendo Zhang Rira Linxi Ninde Yenba De Sangye Xindo Mende Wewa Yi Rongwe Nanda Jingla Jeba Sho Kanri Rawe Korwe Shingam So Pendan Dewa Mali Jongwe Chere Sewan Tenzin Gyeltsen Shabe Siden Bado Denjo Ji Yidan Guru Ratna Mandel Niyandaya Me Gyawa Kundo Yangda Lama Dan Deme Chege Bela Lonje Je Sada Lamje Yunden Rabzo Doje Jangi Goma Yundo Jo